Libram Paladin is a deck that's been recently re-released with the newest expansion, The Great Dark Beyond. Prior to the nerfs and buffs, Libram Paladin was not receiving much attention, but in the newest meta, it started to take a real foothold on the meta. What you'll see in this following gameplay footage is myself in Legend using the deck. The list involves mulliganing for 4 specific cards. You want to mulligan for your instrument tech to go for your starslicer wayfinder. The wayfinder reduces down the cost of all Librams for the rest of the game by 1 with both its battle cry and death rattle. This then can be used to reduce down the cost of the 3 Libram spells the deck uses, and it can also be used then to combo down your opponent by reducing down their health really easily. The first spell is a 3-mana spell. It allows you to draw 2 minions from your deck, but if the card costs 0, get a 2/1 buff as well onto those minions. The 4-mana spell is used to combo down your opponent because you can use it to buff up your minions along with Lady Libram. Then you can put it onto the same minion over and over, and you can control the board. And the last of the Librams is a 6-mana spell. It can be used to play tempo onto your opponent's board because it's quite difficult to clear 3 Divine Shield minions, and then you can use it to go aggressive onto your opponent. What you'll also want is Miracle Salesman if you want, but ultimately you do want to get your Librams out as quick as possible. So what you'll find in this gameplay footage is a variety of different matchups against a variety of different decks in this current format. So what I'm up to in this gameplay is it's currently turn 5. I haven't been able to get my weapon down on curve yet. I have been able to get a previous weapon down on curve, but I'm wanting to buff up this minion to try and go aggressive as I can onto the opponent. With the Divine Shield, I put it onto both of my minions just to make sure that I could cover for their cost. I'm going to, in this gameplay, because with Druid, if they don't get an early Dungar, you'll be able to take control quite easily with the Divine Shields and buffs that you have. So what I do here is I put the Divine Shield onto my minion, and I'm just thinking of which way I'm going to trade best. I do ultimately end up deciding to trade into the minion that's there. I could have played down the Living Horizon, but I wanted to reduce down the spells of my... Oh. So ultimately, that previous turn I should have played down the Living Horizon first if that was the play that I was going to go for. It wasn't the best idea using the spell first, because if I used the spell second I would have been able to get some more damage down to the board. It ultimately didn't matter too much judging by what the field looks like and by the spells in my hand, but it was a misplay in reality because I could have then decided if I wanted to play an extra mana down. What they end up doing here is they start trying to take out my board. With the Lady Libram, I should have enough damage to be able to take out the opponent. So I think about how many of the Lady Libram spells that I've done. I play the buff down first, and then I use the Lady Libram, so it gets you an extra spell into your pool. Doing an extra amount of damage makes them concede. Druid is quite a favourable matchup for this deck. The next match, once again, is into Druid. The mulligan that I'm going for is for my my instrumental tech and also for my Miracle Salesman. I do keep the Hi-Ho Silverwing because they don't go very aggressive in this matchup, so Miracle Salesman isn't a massive deal to be having or not. I also want to be trying to get the weapon too to make sure that I'm not to make sure I have all my buffed things as quick as possible. What I hope for in this matchup is that they don't have the buffs that are needed. They don't have the ramp as quick as possible. So I play down my 2/1, and then this is a relatively difficult thing for them to deal with. With that Trail Mix, it signals that they're going to use the 6-mana Crystal Cluster, and drawing into my instrument tech there is very big. The following turn, I'm going to be using Instrument Tech, obviously, to make sure I get my weapon. I more than likely will be playing down the Interstellar to get the extra Libram onto the field as well. I could always hold it for the following turn, but I do just want to draw as many as possible. And since I've already got already had 2 Librams in my hand, getting the extra one isn't a massive deal. Establishing the tempo is more important to make sure that they won't be able to take out my board as easily. They end up using Malfurion's Gift to continue buffing up their, continue ramping. This does show that they will be able to go into turn 9 very shortly. 9 mana very shortly, which is their essential power play. I am hoping in this situation that they don't have the Dunga, but I just have to wait and see. So I go as aggressively as possible as I can into them, and then I pass the turn over to them. With this hand, it is relatively strong, and even if there is a Dungar that's there, but I would probably lose still if there was a Dungar this early on for me. They end up just having Ziliax, so what I do here is I play down the living... I'm going to more than likely play down the Living Horizon, because ultimately it's so cheap to be playing it down. I'm thinking here of how I'm going to draw, because I do want to use the Yes Charge of Hope, but I decide against it. And then I'm weighing up what the best choice is since my hand is relatively clunky, so I end up deciding to just do a quick trade into the Ziliax. And I believe I just play down Libram of Faith because it allows me to have a wide board that they more than likely won't be able to clear with their minions. And then I can use my then I can use my 4 mana minion. So they end up doing some more draw, but with how their board is, it is quite weak. Hydration Station could be a bit of a problem for me, but I do have relatively decent outs towards it. What I want to do here is I want to be making sure that I'm getting rid of the Ziliax, obviously, and I don't have any more Librams left in my deck, so now I just want to try and establish as wide a board as possible to deal with what they have. I want to try and reduce down the armor so then I can take out their board too. They play down the Stargazer here, so their goal ultimately right here is to try and deal as much damage to my face as possible, so I need to obviously make sure that I clear the Stargazer, but also make sure that I'm thinking of having a taunt up in front of them. I play down the Peacekeeper. I'm thinking of playing down the Peacekeeper in this situation. I'm also thinking of trying to reduce down my Libram's cost, but ultimately or use the plushie to reduce down to increase my mana health. But ultimately, I choose to play down the Peacekeeper because it allows me to keep my wide board, but it also allows me to trade quite effectively into the opponent. When I do this trade, I'm thinking about if they have Ziliax with Hydration Station, I am in a little bit of trouble, but if they don't, I have essentially established control of the board completely. I'm not 100% sure what happens in the rest of this gameplay, because they play down the Yogg, but they don't end up doing anything else afterwards. I'm not sure if they disconnected, or if they just worked out that they more than likely won't be able to clear the board with my Titan out onto the field. But it ultimately ends up just finishing up here. Going into the next game, I'm playing against a Rogue. Rogues have a few different archetypes that are currently being used. There's Cycle Rogue, there's Fizzle Rogue, and then there's Weapon Rogue. Of the Rogue archetypes, probably Cycle Rogue is the most difficult to be playing against. Weapon Rogue is the most difficult to be playing against. Cycle Rogue is probably the most common Rogue deck on the ladder. It's not too aggressive into your deck, and since you're able to get a wideish board, while also, if you can establish a wideish board while also reducing down the cost of your Librams, you do end up getting quite strong against the Rogue deck, because their pop-off turn is usually around turn 6 or turn 7, which by then you've usually established your buffs onto your minions and buffs onto your Librams, and then you're able to take out your opponent's health from there. Leroy obviously is quite a useful addition to make sure that you can charge them down too. And then with the 6 mana spell that allows you to get you out 3 minions, it also means that it's quite difficult for the rogue to clear, because they have to use either a task stick plus 2 Fan of Knives, the Ethereal Oracle plus a task stick plus 2 Fan of Lives, and then that essentially means that they are going quite limited onto their resources to deal with you. So it is quite difficult when you do get the Libram spell out that they won't be able to do too much against you. What you see into this gameplay here is they do end up making sure they have the Fan of Knives and also Task Lick and Backstab. This is okay for them, but it means that I do have quite the advantage going into the following turns. What I'm going to be playing down here more than likely with this hand is the Living Horizon, but we'll just wait and see what I end up drawing to see what the choice is going to be. I get the Interstellar Starslicer, so that's obviously is the play that I'm going to do. So I play down the Starslicer, there's no real other option considering, and then I attack into the Ethereal Oracle. The opponent in this turn, going into turn 5, they could play down another Ethereal Oracle, or they could play down their Pirate to reduce down the cost of their next card by 3. Since I don't have anything on board, it means that there isn't too much that they have to worry about at this point in time. With my weapon draw that I have, I can attack into the 4/3, equip the new weapon, and then I can use my my 6 mana spell, which is now a 2-cost spell, and then I can buff up my minions. What you'll notice just there was, I was thinking that it was the spell that lets you draw the minions, but it was actually the buffing spell, which is fine by me because I now have 2 6/6s and a 3/3 onto the board. I also have established my weapon too, which is quite strong, and every single spell that I'm using with the 3/3 buff means that I'm reducing down to 0, so it means that my Librams will be very... it means that my Lady Lydran will be very strong. They use their second Ethereal Oracle, which means that their Insidious isn't going to be very strong in this situation. If they do Shadow Step it up, it could be a little bit of a problem in terms of that, but I'm not too concerned about I'm not too concerned about them playing it like that if they don't pick it back up. I'm trying to work out if I have lethal here. With them freezing the 6/6, I don't, so I end up just buffing up my minions to make sure that they more than likely will survive against the following turn. This board that I've set up here, I've set it up so I have the 7/9 just to protect against dubious purchase, because I don't want to be putting all my minions into the same stack. This also, with 7/9, means that they can't use the Breakdance plus their Giant to make sure that they use up more... It means that they use more of their minions and things to take out the 7/9. And because I've got the 12 damage in my hand, it means that I'm relatively strong into whatever they end up doing as well. So they do get the Playhouse Giant down, and then they'll use Breakdance on it, they'll get more of the Playhouse Giants. But because I have a 7/9, it means that although it won't be able to take out their 8/8, it means that I'll be able to defend against it for an extra turn. Unless they end up using like a Fan of Knives or something along those lines. Or if they trade directly into my face. But that's ultimately beneficial for me because it means that I'll be able to more than likely take them down from my hand. They do take back their Sonya at this point in time. I have Leroy plus I have the 6 damage on board plus the 3. And then drawing the glow sticks ultimately just sums up the match that's there. So I play both my spells onto Leroy, I use glow sticks, and then I have enough damage once you put all those different things together. Okay, the next game's against Shaman. Shaman has a few decks that are on ladder that are quite strong. I do Mulligan quite aggressively to try and get my low cost minions. This turn that I play here, I don't have Miracle's Salesman, so I'm just deciding here whether I'm going to play my my 2/2s down or not. They use their pop-up book, which doesn't really mean too much in this situation since I don't have any minions on the board. And I do have a bunch of 2/2s in my hand, so this could be conceived as a misplay, since I could play down the 2 drop that allows you to get a Divine Shield, but it seems like they have a relatively slow start, so I'm taking advantage of that by just playing down my Libram now, and I'm hoping that they don't have any way to take it out, and they also don't have any particularly strong cards to deal with it. This ultimately does end up being beneficial for me because I can play down my second Libram, and then I can use Coin in addition with it to help me draw some more cards, and I can use Instrument Tech to get me the second one. So this allows me to have quite a strong board, but also have quite a lot of cards in my hand that are very strong against them. They do put down the Signal of Diving here, which can be a bit of a problem because they're starting to get to that turn 6 where they're able to Bloodlust. So I need to be making sure that I'm getting as many trades as possible down to make sure that I don't have any issues with their board. I do trade into the 3/3 here because I want to make sure that I keep as many minions around as possible to keep trading. That's the reason why I didn't trade into that. Like, it is an extra 2 damage, but ultimately I want to make sure that I'm keeping as wide a board as possible to deal with what they have. They do end up trading into my minion, which is quite good for me. And then they make their stage bouncer. So this is a little bit of a problem for that, but with my hand it is relatively strong as well. I do swing my weapon to reduce down the cost of my cards. I have 5 mana in hand, so I have a few different options of what I could do here, and that's what I'm deciding. I don't really want to play the Sandcastle down in this situation. I end up playing down the Wayfinder because this allows me to have a 0 cost spell, and then I can use the glow sticks glow sticks next to help increase my health. So I use the glow sticks, hit it into the 4/4, and then I decide not to use the 0 mana spell because I don't want to overdraw the following turn. With my 4/2 that's on the field, it is relatively strong as well because I will be able to buff it up if I really need to. They end up using their jam session to make it so they have a 7/8, which is a little bit problematic for me, but I do keep a minion on the field, which is good. I do have a full hand at the moment, which is a bit of a problem for me as well. I play down the silver hand. Silver Hoe, I believe. And then I draw some more cards because I'm hoping to get the Living Horizon to help defend against them. I do end up drawing it, which is really good. I'm just deciding here what I want to end up doing. So I'm working out if I have enough mana. So at the moment I have 4 mana. I need to make sure that I do as much as I can. I'm just choosing whether I want to heal or put down the taunt. I decide to put down the Living Horizon, then go wide onto their board. I hit into the 1/2. It doesn't mean anything since they have the since they have the heal totem. They end up trading first into the 6/7. I'm not really sure why. They should have used their weapon swing first to reduce me down to a 3/3, but they end up doing that, so it's a bit of a misplay on their part there. They hit twice into my face here, so I do need to decide what I'm going to do. I'm making sure that I have enough. I don't have too many cards that are in my hand. I'm trying to work out here if I have enough Librams in play to reduce down the cost of my weapon, reduce down the cost of the heal spell, which I don't. So what I end up deciding here is to get the plushie so I can get some more heals down onto my field and try and avoid having a difficult turn going into them. I do make sure that I keep the wide board with the Divine Shields, although it is possible they could be using the it is possible they could use Molten Magma to clear my guys. I do take out both their totems, even though it reduces down my damage output, just because I don't want to be putting the I don't want to be making their bloodlust too strong into me. They don't have anything from this draw that is difficult for me to worry about. The 3/3 that's on their board can cause them to have a wide board once again, but I do have a way to clear that using the Beacon of Hope and the equality effect. They end up going wide using that. And they hit into my plushie to reduce down the amount of heals that I have. So going into this turn, what I'm thinking about is I need to get the weapon swing out to reduce down the cost of their spells. I use it, then I hit into the opponent. What I work out at this point in time as well is that I've just missed lethal, because if I use my weapon to proc into that, I would have been able to use the 2/1 to hit into the opponent there and then buff up my minions. So obviously you do still make some misplays around, but that's just how it works sometimes. So I end up just doing a full trade to make sure that they don't have any board to deal with. And I keep my 3/3 healthy just because I'm also a little bit worried about the Molten Magma, since I haven't played it down just yet. They use a pop-up book here, but it doesn't really mean too much to worry about. Wave of Nostalgia could be an issue in this situation, but it's not really too much. Playing down the Titan means that they do clear most of my board, especially if they use the weapon proc to hit into my Living of Hope. I still don't have the full buff onto my field just yet, so I'm hoping to pick up some sort of way to make my Librams cost free. What I end up doing here is I make sure that I get as much as I can to clear down their board. I don't really want them to be doing too much to deal with what I have. I buff up the 1/1s simply because I do want to make sure that I have I make it not as easy as for them to take out my board. I use the glow sticks to go into the Titan, and then I trade into the plushie into the Titan to make sure they don't get to use any more of the procs. This also means that they can't do some sort of bloodlust turn in combination with the Titan. With the Ethereal Oracle, I think they were hoping to get the Magma to AoE by board, but this ends up just being a clear-cut combo that I can do. So I'm counting right now how much damage I have on the field and making sure that I have enough to take them out. Okay. Going into this game, I'm playing against Hunter. Quite often the hunters that are playing are either Starship Hunter or Discover Hunter. So once again, I do a similar sort of mulligan to make sure that I'm mulliganing with the idea of trying to get the weapon out as quick as possible, and also the trying to get as many Librams out as quick as possible for my deck. So what they end up doing here, they play down their 1 mana 1/1. This signifies to me that they're playing Discover Hunter. I end up deciding to put down my salesman because there's no real choice that needs to be made there. It's probably one of the strongest 1-drops in the game, especially being a neutral minion. They end up trading into taking out my minion, and what I'm going to do in this following turn is I'm going to play down the weapon as quick as possible. Although my hand doesn't really have a strong going into next turn, playing down the weapon quickly is very strong because you don't want them to freeze you while you have the weapon. You also don't want them to be able to you also want to make sure that you're trading as well. what I'm planning here, so I'm assuming they're going to try and go for an explosive trap or a freezing trap or something along those lines, and also some sort of way to draw more cards, so they'll be using the spell that ends up getting it. So I test first for freezing trap and explosive trap, and then I end up just putting down a hero power because I don't really have anything in my hand to deal with them. Since they didn't have either of those true, I'm thinking that they do have an ice trap, which is a reason why I don't want to play down my Librams of Faith just yet, because if I do, it means that they could make it so I'm a turn behind, especially since it'd be stopping a 5-mana spell, or 4-mana spell. So I'll be playing down the Interstellar minion, the 4-mana minion, to make sure that I'm defending against their board, more than likely in the following turn. They play down their Parrot Sanctuary, and then they reduce down the cost of their spells by 1. I could use the weapon proc here, but I do want to establish the board, especially since they haven't used any sort of freezing trap or explosive trap. This 3/4 here is relatively beneficial for me since I can use my Silverhand recruits to trade. What I end up seeing in this following play from them is they do trade the 3/4 into the 1/1, and I'm not really 100% certain why that's the case, because it ends up just taking out their minion. I think it might be so then they can go wider to make sure that I don't, it might be for their following turn, but it seems very strange to me what they ended up doing there. With my spell, I do end up playing down the Libram of Faith, because Ice Trap here, although it reduces, Divinity, Ice Trap here does reduce down my, make it so it's a 1 cost, but I end up using it to my advantage as well, because I can use it the following turn for free anyway, and it means that I can get my 3/3s down onto the board with their Divine Shield. So the opponent uses Sasquatch, so they were assuming that I wouldn't be able to clear their board, which is the reason why they end up trading the 3/4, I think, and it meant that they could go wider like this. It does mean that they were able to do it relatively easily. I do have the Beacon of Hope here as well as the 3/3, so I'm going to end up trading it into my opponent to make sure that I can get all the spells down that I can. I end up using my... Oh, I was thinking I was going to use the weapon proc. I end up using my weapon proc, I think. I use the Book of Wisdom to trade into the 2/5 to make it into a 1 damage. I don't want to use the wide AoE just yet, in case that they're using some sort of starship or something. And then I just trade into the opponent, and I make sure I kept my board. This turn, going into their following turn, they don't really have too much left, especially with their relatively small hand, and I have quite a few buffs that are there. With the Discover, and the Forge, I am thinking that they're going to try to use Freezing Trap or Ice Trap again. So I make sure that with the way that I set up my board is that I'm not playing too much into it. I also do want to take out the Discover minion that they have there, the 1/2. Besides from that, the Sasquatch isn't too much of an issue for me to worry about. If I use the Equality here, it means, and then I attack into it, it means that they would end up surviving from that. So what I do first to test their spell is I use my Libram that is going to be free even if Ice Trap hit it. I then attack face to test for Freezing Trap and Explosive Trap. And right now I'm thinking if I have enough damage to use Leroy to combo them down, which I do not. I end up buffing up my minions some more using the Libram of Divinity, and I let them have it onto their Rat Pack. I use it all onto the same minion because I'm trying to get as much down onto their opponent's face as possible this turn. I could have put it onto the 4/6 to make it so they wouldn't be able to clear my board too easily, but it's not too much of an issue keeping it that way. I'm also at this point in time thinking about my glow sticks, whether to use them, but I ultimately decide to keep them. With the biopod that they have on their board, it means that I am in a little bit of trouble if they end up using the starship to reduce down the cost of their board. I'm sorry, reduce down the to use the biopod mixture onto me, especially since they could use that to heal up as well with all the armor gain that they have, because they have 2 of the 6 armor gain into there. They've also used the pirate sanctuary to make it so they've hit into the board, hit into my face with it. The 2 biopods hitting into face could have been problematic because they end up with just 1 damage left that they need to be able to deal. But with my board state that I have, I can use the Divine Shield to heal, and I can also use the glow sticks as well. I use the glow sticks here to make sure that there's not some sort of proc that could go into me that can cause problems. And then I buff up one of my buff up my 10/10 minion some more, because I don't want them to be able to clear it with the, if they do have the bait and switch. The biopod ends up hitting into my Divine Shield, which is really good. It probably would have been better putting it onto the 6/6 to make sure that that didn't die the following turn. Like, that's a relatively decent play, but I didn't want to. I wanted to make sure that my taunt minion had a decent amount of health as well, just in case they had some sort of way to deal with my board. This following turn with Lady Lydran, I do have enough damage to be able to take out the opponent as long as I have a minion down on board, because I have a lot of damage already, a lot of attack value already on the field. Since they've already used and shown those 2 Discover cards, I'm not too concerned about them. This turn, there was a slight misplay. I could have used down the equality. If I had used the equality, it means that I would have had 1 extra buff, but because I've already got such a wide board, it means that I have enough damage to take out the opponent anyway. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more gameplay videos on Alphachallenges. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. Thank you. Bye.